Good afternoon.
Hey,
Welcome
Marty.
to thanks, John. Welcome to the Intentional Living Podcast with John Donovan in Oceanside and Marty Keller here in Sacramento. We're welcoming back our colleague Ruben Smith. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
I think last time we had you on, it was one of our more popular podcasts. So I'm assuming you sent invitations to your whole family to watch. And
it was me watching it over and over and over and critiquing. Yes.
That works too.
Happy to be back.
Good to see you. So we were chatting before we turned the record button on, and we had a request from one of our watchers to talk about a certain topic. And here's what she had to say. She said, would you be willing to talk about how early childhood chaos, turmoil, and trauma can cause adults to have the need for absolute control over situations, partners, family members? I found in my personal life, micromanaging is harmful and pushes most everybody away and makes most people really angry.
There you have it. Yeah.
Never had that experience.
Yeah. The answer to any, why am I doing this thing I don't want to do? The answer is family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma that is held in our subconscious pool of information and is unresolved trauma. So, yeah. And control is the, well, actually violence and or coercion is the strong arm of control, which is the behavior that most people want to shy away from. It makes them, the requester said angry, but I would say hesitant to just speak anymore to whoever's doing the abuse by whatever the control method was. So, yeah.
One of the things I've been working with, experiencing, I've talked a little bit about it here in the podcast, is again, something I learned from you relatively recently, which is about the pull of that family of origin dysfunction body chemistry.
Yes.
That what I've come to understand is there's an emotional structure that I now call home base, and it's the place where little Marty feels safe in a counterintuitive kind of way. And what I've come to understand, that body chemistry, which is a way of keeping me safe by keeping people away, is actually there to mask a deeper feeling that I don't want to feel. So yes. I'd rather feel you angry with me or me resentful toward you than feel the actual pain of abandonment, which I felt as a little boy.
Yes.
And I don't want that. And so the strategy a little kid worked out, God bless him, was to create a level of hypervigilance, agitation, and keep away, so that the people that I most desperately want to feel close to and intimate with are the people I have activated my defense systems to keep away.
Yes.
I once heard you say, I'm going to see if I get this right, John, but I once heard you say that the experience for us as little kids is that love was dangerous. And now I'm a 70-year-old adult, and I still have love is dangerous as a body chemical state.
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of the accountability practice is that it allows me to be aware of that when it shows up, and because it's there, it's just part of me. And now that I have awareness, I can ask myself what I want. And the other thing that I've discovered is that there's no wrong answer to the question, what do I want? There are some times I just want to stay agitated.
Yeah.
And I give myself permission to stay agitated.
Right.
The bad news about that is that usually then it goes away. It's like, I want to stay agitated, but it's not working anymore.
Yeah. The Adult Show of Alcoholics has a list of traits of behavior that are in alignment with living in a dysfunctional family and experiencing childhood trauma. And one of the traits, I think it's trait 8, is addicted to excitement. When the guy, Tony A, first put these traits together, his initial trait 8 was addicted to fear. And he felt that most people would not own that or understand that. So he changed it to addicted to excitement. So the body chemistry that I felt as a child, which was humiliation, ridicule, being chastised, being told that whatever I was feeling wasn't the right feeling. And then the body chemistry that created in me, which is adrenaline and or some stressor of some kind, some formula, cortisoids, steroid stressor, became what my body needed to feel safe. So I grow up, I see somebody I believe I love deeply, get in a relationship, and as soon as we get close for a period of time, I'm finding myself in a behavior of either yelling when, and I'm actually yelling and thinking in my head, why are you doing this? Don't do this. And what's happening is that inner child chemical state is where I survived, and the unfamiliarity of close connection without a condition, and this is all subconscious. I had no idea this was going on. I would create the condition in the relationship that would cause the body chemistry inside to match my childhood experience. I have 3 questions I ask people. It's like, have you ever hurt somebody you loved, regretted it, sometimes deeply, and then found yourself doing it again, usually in the same way? And another question is, have you ever been in a situation where you knew you were about to do something you would regret, and you even heard a little voice in your head, don't do that, that you're going to regret this, and found that you couldn't or wouldn't stop that behavior? That subconscious pool of information, that unresolved childhood trauma, its mission is to keep you surviving, and the condition is stressors, steroids, adrenaline. And so no matter what I think rationally, I don't want to do this, I want to be loving, I find myself in a screaming match or slamming doors or running out of the room, or getting to be a bully, which is emotional, verbal, and sometimes physical abuse, and wondering at my behavior, and I jump into judgment and blame, and I lose the opportunity to heal whatever trauma that is motivating this unrealistic, unrational behavior. So people say, why am I controlling? Well, the answer to any why question about me doing something I say I don't want to do is unresolved childhood trauma, family of origin dysfunction, unresolved childhood trauma. And in the accountability process, in the intentional living material, we spell out how it happened. And then the accountability tree practice gets me back into the childhood state body chemistry when I own, instead of making an excuse, I was just mean to my daughter. Instead of making an excuse for that, I just own that truth. And that truth resonates with the experience, the trauma. And I can feel in present moment what I might have felt as a child. And the 12 steps say the healing is in the feeling. So if I simply say I'm mean without blame or judgment, going into a story, I can then feel, resonate, validate that little boy's trauma, whatever happened to him. I don't have to know the details of it. It's a frequency thing. And then I can feel the relief. I can feel the sloughing of something off of my body. And I hear myself saying, I intend to be kind. Well, that I intend to be kind fuses with the frequency of the pain. Although I haven't identified this is what dad did or this is what mom did. I just know the end result is I'm mean. And it makes sense to be mean. That's people stay away from you if you're mean, and then you're not going to get hurt. All subconscious. That's not what I said when I was being mean. I justified my meanness by some rationale, defensive or accusatory, which created the body chemistry that my little boy needed to feel safe. And when I say I intend to be kind, it's a validation of that pain. It reframes that energy. It goes back into my subconscious different. And when I first started this, what happened is I simply noticed how many times I was either sarcastic or demeaning or said something that was painful or hurtful. And after a while, I had the ability to stop before I did the action and feel the feeling. And now my default mode comes from the intents I created. It is my intent to be a loving, caring, nurturing father. It is my intent to be kind. It is my intent to be gracious. It is my intent to give and receive love. All those intents that I created by owning the end result, which I was in a chemical state, created the intent, changed the chemistry to where my survival mechanism, my reticular activating system, and I hope I'm just not like blowing that in there, but the mechanism that was trying to recreate my childhood chemistry now is creating serotonin, and I don't know, norepinephrine, the feel-good chemicals, the feeling content, feeling connected chemicals. And now that's my baseline, that's my default mode. So I'm going to stop.
All right, well, before we unpack all that, I want to check in with Ruben and see if you have any comments on this issue.
I got a page full of notes. Yeah, I actually don't recall the question specifically, but what's coming to me is a few things. I've had some experiences of late that I can touch on. But what came to me first was loving from survival.
Yes.
Loving from your fight, flight, freeze, please. And it is subconscious. You find yourself, well, I'll say for myself as a parent, I find myself almost in the exact same conversations that I had when I was my kid's age, almost verbatim. And it reminds me of when you're growing up and, oh, I'll never be like my parents. And then here I am. Oh my gosh, I am exactly like my parents. Not only that, but I'm loving from survival. I'm loving with sarcasm. I'm loving with strings attached, with expectations. The other thing that came to me was the harder you try to get something, the further you get away. If it's coming from that space, it's not going to come across, it's not in a healing way. It's not from love. It's not from your truth. It's not from honesty. It's from survival. So how can you emotionally connect with somebody that's in their survival mode, right? For me, I had an experience earlier in the month where I was engaged in an emotional conversation, and I will own that I was in my survival. I was in and out of it. Let's put it that way. It was something I will never forget. Where I was present enough to identify what was happening and not take the words that were being said to me personal. Most of the words. I did get hit with a few that I found myself at one point standing up to blow out of the conversation, to remove myself. And then I recentered. I took a breath and sat down. I checked in the moment. I didn't get very far in the check-in. I got to who I am, an authentic, confident, trustworthy man. In my body, I am scared. I am helpless. I'm nervous. That's about as far as I got.
Can you give us some context of that moment? Where you were?
So yeah, it was with a parent, and my wife and I are we are contemplating a fairly large decision for us, for our family, and it's to relocate. It's a big move, big decision. It's something we've been contemplating for the last almost year, and it's coming down to where we're going to need to make a decision. And I was providing an update to my family, and there was everyone in my immediate family was around the dinner table, and not everybody took it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was the reaction put me back into at moments where I felt like I was an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And it's not a specific image. It's not something that came up as, oh, I remember exactly where I was, what day it was, what happened. It was an energy. It was a frequency
Mm-hmm.
that made me feel small, made me feel irrelevant. And I realized that is how I was loved. Not to my parents' fault. It's what they knew. My parents were doing the best that they could, given what they were handed to, right? Or handed or presented with. So in the moment of feeling like a small, irrelevant boy trapped in a 41-year-old body, I looked across the table, and with compassion, I was able to stay in compassion and see a deep cry for love.
Mm-hmm.
And I too picked up an energy that was a scared little kid from my parent in the moment. So it was a real surreal memory that I'm gonna work on for a while. I'm gonna digest for a while. But what happened? Sorry, I'm a little dry. What happened and what I've identified later on is that my patterns of behavior are shifting. In my past, I would have taken everything that was said personally. The conversation never would have gotten to an emotional connection. I would have been in my survival, my survival mechanism, the entire conversation. There would have been zero love. And that's a change. That's a difference. When we talk about this work, notice the difference. It doesn't mean that difference. I left there walking on clouds. No, I was beat up. I was exhausted. I was drained. I didn't know what was said. When I went and processed it later on, I didn't remember the words that were being used. I was very much in a tunnel vision, and I would think that's due to my survival mode and deep awareness and compassion for what was happening. So borderline out of body experience. It was interesting. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, that's good. It's the same way it happens to me. I just run out of words when I'm feeling complete. Yeah. So Would you read her question again? Or the
Sure.
question?
Would you be willing to talk about how early childhood chaos, turmoil, and trauma can cause adults to have the need for absolute control over situations, partners, family members? I found in my personal life, micromanaging is harmful and pushes most everyone away and makes most folks really angry.
Okay. So where I found myself at the beginning of my recovery, and I would like to say well into my recovery before I discovered this process, was that I was defensive. I was emotionally and verbally violent, and sometimes physically violent, because that little kid in me had to make sure everything was in the right place and everybody was saying the right thing so that I could maintain the image I had created of myself. And for me, it was man of the house, tough guy, the fixer. You know, I'm the guy that you just give me a problem, I'll fix it. And when that got what I perceived to be defied, or because I was this, great provider, and that there was a service due to me, and when people didn't match that service according to my image, this body chemistry mechanism inside would put me in a fight, flight, freeze, please mode, and I would have adrenaline pumping through my body, and I would lose myself, I would lose the situation, and I would lose the other person. And I was in my subconscious part of me was in a combat zone, and I had to defend or attack or take a pot shot, and just to protect myself. And I didn't even know this was going on. And it manifested in that's a good term, micromanaged. I was telling everybody how to do the dishes, how to load the dishwasher, why it was like you shouldn't have to use a dishwasher now because there's not enough. I mean,
How to make the toast.
Yeah, how to toast, how to toast bread and make it just like really just go. Anyway, yeah, micromanage. And people would move away from me, and I would wonder why they mad at. I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to keep things in order. I'm just trying to make it easy for everybody. I should be getting kudos instead of being shunned or told I'm an asshole or I'm mean, because I didn't see myself as mean or an asshole. I was a nice guy. I'm going to show you how to toast, and then you should be grateful. Where's the gratitude? It's like, and it's very destructive and painful. So,
I think there's. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're our guest.
All right.
You first.
There's something there with the control. It's a threat to lose control. It's a threat. It's fear-based, right? So when you lose control, it's deemed as, whether they see that or not, or can feel that or not, or understand it, it's considered a threat, which it either puts them into an irrational place, or they begin to love not out of authenticity.
Right.
And that is true for me, as far as what my experience was. And what it's happened over the years has turned into loving with strings attached, with expectations. I did this, why don't you value it?
Right.
You did this for me, or did you do this for you to make you feel, where are we going with this? Yeah. So, and it's hard to unwind that codependency and those relationships. And through this work, I've been able to identify for the first time actually what I want. and what has value to me, as opposed to going through the motions and making sure everyone's okay and keeping the peace and, being the chameleon or what have you.
Yeah.
One of the things I've been experiencing in the last month or so is a lot of turmoil in a relationship with one of my closest friends, and somebody that I've really, our relationship has been tumultuous for several years. And I had one of those conversations, Ruben, that's sort of like you were describing, where I got to the point where I could feel the adrenaline in my body, and I literally started to get up and walk away. And there was a grace moment. I don't know what your experience was, but mine was, there was a grace moment that said, don't do this. Don't do this. And not threatening or anything. It just like, no, don't do this. Maybe it sounded like you, John, I don't know, but just said, don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat back down, and I said how I was feeling. That's what I kind of heard you share. And I said this to the other person. I wasn't just doing my own inventory in the moment. And what I came to realize, and I'm still working on this, I'm sort of savoring this the same way I'm hearing you talk about, there was an acute experience, and it's got a lot to reveal over time. Is that I came to realize that I don't really know how to love this person. I don't know how to be in relationship. Everything that I can bring to it is this stuff that we're talking about from childhood. That's what I know how to bring. And it's, as John was saying earlier, it's all subconscious. I sit down across the table from my friend, and I've got the whole army of family of origin, childhood dysfunction energy ready to go. And what's the other? I intend to create a world of joy, peace, freedom, and community. That world is still revealing itself. And so we just sort of sat there and we said to each other, we just don't know how to be friends. It's like, and that's okay. That's the truth. I can work with that truth. If that's the truth, I can work with it. And one of the things that came to me after we were really hanging in there with each other is that that's what love is. That's the best I can do right now, is to hang in there with myself as I go through this learning process. Hang in there with my friend whom I desperately want to be in relationship with, and therefore he's dangerous.
Right.
It's like, I don't have that same energy with John. For some reason, I just trust John, and I don't have any of that kind of, only certain people trigger that in me. And so right now, where I'm at is love equals hanging in there as best I can. Just being as open and honest and vulnerable as I can while I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm. My experience of that is staying with, I don't know what to do right now. I'm stumped.
Right.
I'm feeling awkward and embarrassed, and I've got this tape running that you don't like me anyway. and I'm just witnessing that, what the woman who asked, chaos and drama. That's a replay. And it was true. As a child, I didn't know whether they liked me. They said, I love you, and then whack, or some kind of demeaning remark or criticism. And it was all couched in I love you. And so I was willing to feel the discomfort of that moment and just not react, not say something to get the person like that was mean or sarcastic, not to leave, or yeah, either one of those. And in that process, I'm adding something new to myself. And for me, just recently, I was in a situation where I was talking to a group that I was in, I was talking to one of the people in the group, and we were talking about how to expand the group. And the conversation is, well, we'll invite new people. Well, I was like clear, oh, we're going to invite new people. So I invited new people, and it disrupted the group. And I'm going, and I got this feeling in my chest, and I go, oh, I'm in trouble. Oh, that's what my little kid always said. Oh, I'm in trouble. So I just went to the body sensation. It was all full arm, chest. It was heavy. And I just stayed in the body sensation, just acknowledged, nurtured that sensation, not knowing the what the event was that caused that, knowing that I was in it today because I had recreated that body chemistry. So I stayed with it, and then felt it, went into some meditation with it, called the person back, got some clarity around how she felt, how what I understood, what she understood, and came to a resolution. At the end, my mind was saying, "Oh, are we still going to be friends?" And I heard her ask me, "Hey, John, are we still going to be friends?" And I'm thinking, yes. Oh my God, yes, we are. And we just went through this difficult thing where we both did an action that I assumed. I found out later that my action was unilateral. In other words, I believed I understood what she was saying, and I wasn't clear. And it caused this body sensation in me. And we came to a resolution, and it was by me going into the feeling instead of rationalizing, finding the easy way out, leaving the group, all these things that ran through my mind. And I just, the group is intact, and we're moving forward. So it was a major breakthrough for me. And even after 25 years of doing specifically the accountability process and being in recovery for 34 years, this subtle energy that was still lurking in the background, causing this behavior that recreated that chemistry of adrenaline, cortisol, stress. Oh, I'm in trouble. And that was my war cry when I was a kid, oh my God, I'm in trouble again. It's like, no matter what I do, and that was the truth as a child, because I played the scapegoat. So anytime I walked in the room, people started yelling at me. It's like, and it was all justified. It's like, I could see why you're yelling at me. They knew why they were yelling at me, and everybody yelled at me. And that's the body chemistry that I recreated in my friendship at my level of awareness. And the good news is I have a practice. And I'm happy to be alive. It's like, I want to do more. I want to if there's any more in there, I want it out. And my body will provide for me, because if there's any more in there, it's going to want to recreate a chaotic, dramatic issue. And I can either drop into my old behavior, or I can go, oh, this is an opportunity. I want to tell that person how to do this. And I'm just going to watch right now. I'm just going to pay attention. I'm just going to observe and see what happens. So I don't know if that.
Well, I'd like to, I just thinking, John, as you were sharing that, I'd like to address to anybody who might be listening to this for the first time. The three of us have been doing this work for some time. And so you might not get that part of what's behind our willingness to address the issues as frankly and bluntly as we are, our own inner experiences, which for somebody at the beginning might think of these things as bad things.
Right.
One of the things that we agree in this work is that nothing's wrong, that this is not about bad, wrong. That's something that we grew up with as partly as a defense and partly as the questioner asked, it's a way to control things. is to separate things out into good or bad, right or wrong, and then I'm in control of where the dividing line is. And I can create separation from you when you don't agree with the right dividing line that I have dictated in my own mind.
Right.
But the truth is, we're all human beings, and we all just want to be loved. We all just want to be cared for. We all just want to express whatever unique genius each one of us came into the world with. And we all human beings grow up in this environment where those things don't really happen. Lucky is the man or woman who grows up in a family where the parents are 100% conscious and aware of these things. The parents are 100% conscious and aware of their own stuff, and they live a permission-based life. That doesn't even happen in fairy tales from what I can remember. So we're just we're creating a compassion focus here. It's like I'm okay the way I am, and there are things that I would like to be different.
Yes.
And in order for me to create things to be different, I need to acknowledge the way things are to start off. And so I just wanted to, if you've been listening to this far, and this is your first or second time listening, I want to assure you that the perspective that we're using here, we're coming from, is that there's nothing wrong, that we love each other, we love ourselves enough to want to know. It's like, John, your last comment, I want to know what else is hidden in my subconscious. I used to be afraid of it, and there are times I'm still afraid of it, but the fear is way less intense, and the curiosity is much more intense. It's like, oh, what else is inside that I don't know yet? Because everything that I discover about myself becomes an opportunity to consciously create my life. That's just a little comment on accountability practice.
Thank you for that. And it's good to clarify. I'm so used to knowing this stuff that I didn't talk about it like everybody else knows it too. And it's like, no, it's not the case.
Would you guys mind if I put my spin on that as well?
Oh, please.
This would go back to the question. Now, I'm no doctor. I'm not trained in this by any means, or professionally or scholarly trained. But ages 0 to 5, I see us as sponges. Everything we see is truth. Okay, so whether we're ridiculed, reprimanded for our authenticity, speaking up, vulnerability, and that creates what we call in this word patterns of behavior, right? And survival. It formed our survival mechanism. Well, it's the manifestation of those traumas that we call them over a period of years that leads us to a point in our lives when things become unmanageable. In my case, it was alcohol. But these patterns of behavior keep getting worse and worse and worse, which means we're getting further and further away from our authentic self and our truth. So for me, it was, I had no idea who I was. I had no identity. And I'm also parenting out of no identity. I'm parenting from this subconscious space that is just like how I was parented. So it's because it worked at one point in our past to get us out of these emotional feelings, we will continue to go back to them, even if that means with ridicule or sarcasm or loving in an unhealthy way.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would also argue that this is only getting, I don't know if worse is the right word, but it's only becoming more and more of an issue each generation.
Yes. Compounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is driving, now that I'm able to actually look inward and find what I want, it's driving my wife and I to make decisions like relocating.
Right.
What am I chasing? Am I chasing what I used to chase? That lifestyle, checking off all those boxes? Or am I chasing authentic fulfillment.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, what drives me now is not what drove me then.
I have an example that came to mind as we were talking. It was about, I don't know, a year ago. I was over at my daughter's house, and I have a grandson who was 5 then, and he was being a 5-year-old. And my daughter picked him up and was talking to him. And then she did this, and she does it with him, like dropping, but she didn't give him any warning. And she just did it and dropped him, and he got scared, or he clung to her. I noticed something. And then when she set him down, he like started being what my perception was obstinate. He wouldn't answer a question, or he'd say no, or she was putting some dishes in the dishwasher, and she went to lift the lid for the dishwasher, close it, and he went over and just put his hand right on the dishwasher so she couldn't lift it up. And I'm thinking, whoa, where did that come from? And I left, and about, I don't know, an hour and a half later, I thought, oh, she scared him. He was scared and he didn't know what to do with that feeling. So I called her up and I said, you know how Solomon did this thing after you dropped him? I said, I wonder if that scared him and he didn't know how to express that. So she put the phone off to the side. She goes, Solomon. He goes, what? You remember when I dropped you in the kitchen and I was playing with you? Did you get afraid? He goes, yes. And she says, I'm sorry. I want you to know I'm sorry. And he says, okay, Mom. And it was like he got to process that that emotion, that feeling. He got validated that it's okay to be afraid. And it was just an example of what can happen to a child unknowingly, just from a loving parent that traumatizes, puts a trauma in the post-traumatic aspect because he didn't process it. He went to a behavior that was trying to say something, but he didn't know how to say, don't do that to me again. That scared the shit out of me. He couldn't say that. So he went into a behavior that expressed that something. I didn't like that. So then he was able to go, yeah, that scared me, and be okay. And it's like, and get that out of that stuck trauma, adrenaline producing, and when he turned 25, that he has no idea is even in there. So yeah, this is amazing work.
I'm by no means a perfect dad, and nor do I ever expect to be. I do have moments of complete vulnerability in front of my kids.
Yes.
And it doesn't need to be anything related to what they did. It could be just something going on in my own, something that they're not even privy to.
Right.
By me having being vulnerable in front of them, that is also I take that as being my own loving parent in front of them, and showing that it's okay to be vulnerable, that there's power and healing in vulnerability.
Wow.
I don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
Where if I felt the blood pressure going up, I would be pushing it down so far until I was about to explode. I would leave the room, slam doors. I would never own any of my shit. No way. And I'd find a way to turn it back on them. Can't you see I work hard? Can't you see? Yeah. Why can't you see this, you 3-year-old?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Ruben. I want to note that I'm excited about who's going to watch this, because they're going to see 3 men who are vulnerable, are sensitive. It's like this is masculinity. It's like I can nurture my grandson from my masculinity. I don't have to be weak or sissy. I can be kind with him. I can be loving with him from my masculinity. It's just, and vulnerable. Oh my God, I'm so excited. So, wow. Cool.
I wanted to share with us, thank you for that, John. I wanted to share with us an experience I had fairly recently, again, illustrative of this question that our friend asked, and how it, as I've been in this inquiry for the last couple of months, based on the challenges I have in this my other very good dear friend, one of our colleagues and who works with us in our work called me up and said, I'd like to invite you over to lunch, and I'm going to make this very special dish that I think you'll really like. And and I'm not particularly close to this person, but somebody that I've been doing this work with in the rooms for a couple of years, but hadn't spent a whole lot of time with her outside of that. And I said, okay, yeah, thanks. And then after we hung up, I had this energy of like, I don't want to do this. This is wrong. There's something I'm going to be expected to reciprocate. It's like this whole, again, this childhood energy. And I had to just laugh at myself, because there's nothing I say I want more than to experience love that people who love me lavish on me. Like there's something wrong. Hold, stop. It's just lunch. She wasn't coming at me with a knife. She was just offering me lunch. And then I thought, you know, what am I willing to consider the possibility that she likes me and likes to be with me? And that's actually a neat thing. And I had to laugh as I thought through this. First of all, that just this no energy. No, this is dangerous. There's a hidden agenda. It's like, what? And I want to honor that's how I felt. Nothing wrong. Without my ability to feel that and notice that, I couldn't go past it.
Right.
I couldn't say, okay, well, what do I really want here? Well, I just want to have a good time. I intend to enjoy my life. And this individual is a quality individual, somebody who's doing a lot of great work in her own recovery. And by gosh, I'd like to be around that more. Mm-hmm. So I understood, as I learned in this work, that the invitation and the person who issued the invitation had nothing to do with my reaction.
Right.
That was my reaction. And it was like, again, the question here is, would you be willing to talk about how early childhood chaos, turmoil, and trauma can cause adults to have the need for control? My control there, just the second point I want to make, is that control is a very subtle thing sometimes. And so my control was like, I don't want to have to go to lunch. I want to control how this relationship unfolds. If I want to have lunch, I will invite this person to lunch. And it's like, oh, wow. So am I willing to be out of control here?
Yes.
Am I willing to just take a flyer and go on over and have a great meal and see what happens? Am I willing to be vulnerable? And again, it was just lunch.
Yes.
It wasn't a marriage proposal. It was just lunch.
One of the things I worked on real hard, and this is what I'm hearing you say, and I'm gonna say what I was working on. You say, see if it matches. Was I wasn't able to receive unconditionally without me having to do something in reciprocation. So, and I created the intent to receive, period, and not put a condition on it. Not now now I'm obligated. No, I'm willing to receive. And it's wow.
Wow. Yeah. It's like I said earlier, I just want to be loved. And yet when people love me,
yeah,
like I want to be, it's like that old line, what was it, Charlie Brown? It's like, I love humanity. It's people I can't stand. Sort of a version of that.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to be loved, but I want to choose how I get it. No. And that
Well,
just goes back to my childhood.
Yes.
It's like my parents, the way my parents loved me, my experience of it was it changed all the time, and it was not reliable. And so I just had to end up pulling back.
Yeah.
So that's my orientation is just pull back.
Yeah.
Pull back. I'm safe if I don't engage.
Mhm.
Again, I'm 70 years old. I'm way past half of my life probably. So I thought I intend to experience love. I intend to receive. I like your formulation even better. I intend to receive.
Yeah. Wow.
Those both hit home for me. I put myself in your shoes, Marty, as a I don't want to be in a place. I'm not good enough to go to lunch. I'm not. Why would someone want to hang out with me?
Mhm.
Then I'll actually have to talk, and maybe I'll have to know what I'm talking about. And then, wow, what if I'm wrong, or what if I'm called out on my shit? And no.
Yeah. And those are all things that really happened to you as a kid. Those things happened to you. Happened to me.
Yeah.
Yes. And they
Well, that's where I
were there.
went to. Yeah, I went to my 11-year-old kid.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
no, nope.
Wow.
I have to tell you, the first crack in my armor that I ever experienced was long before I got in recovery, and I was with a friend of mine who I actually had a connection with, family connection, but we both moved to California. We didn't know that we had a family connection back in Michigan, and we were out. My friend and his wife and I were out taking a walk somewhere up in Marin County, and I made some kind of. He was saying something, he wanted to do something with me, and I made some kind of flippant comment, and he literally grabbed my collar and he goes, "You don't have to do the Marty Keller show. I like you no matter what." And I was like blown away. It's like, first of all, I felt utterly exposed that he knew I was putting on a show. And I didn't, I thought I was fooling everybody. And he was like, no. And then he said, and I don't give a shit about your show. Do the show or not. I just want to be friends with you, period.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Wow.
oh,
Wow.
Well, could I ask you
WTF?
something on that?
Yeah, of course.
So what, okay, in the moment, do you know how to be yourself? That's where I was struggling. Even if I was presented with a complete safe place, I didn't really have the foundation of me. I didn't know.
Well, so
To the point to where I didn't have strong opinions. It was, I'm neutral on everything. Don't ruffle any feathers. That's all I knew.
yeah. Well, in this particular case, I tell you what, again, there's something that we haven't discussed a lot today, and I made a note on it here, is that there is grace. There is grace in this world. It's not all difficulty and trauma. And I mean, I did not get beaten up 24/7 in my family of origin. There was fun stuff that we did. There was good stuff. But in that particular case, when my friend said that to me, you know, Ruben, what I really felt was, underneath all of it, I felt tickled. I felt actually loved, even though all of my defenses were going boing. Behind that, I had enough awareness to go, you know, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
I couldn't peg it to the way you formulated that. I couldn't say, okay, now this is who I am or whatever. No, I just remember being, wow. And I remember just kind of relaxing. He had his hand on my collar, and I just kind of relaxed. He let go, and like that, and nothing else was said. It was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Did that mean I stopped putting on a show, or no, not at all. Until I got into this program, until I got into what we call recovery, I didn't have the means, and my friend Phil was not, he didn't have anything to offer with respect to that. He was just wanted to be friends. He wasn't trying to run a program or anything. He just wanted to be friends.
Yeah.
It was pretty guileless. And this is a guy who came from a really dysfunctional family and just horrible, because when I actually knew his father through because my dad used to work for him, for my friend's dad back in Michigan. And it's like he was a freaking tyrant. So my friend just wanted to be loved and wanted to be friends. But I didn't have any of this information at the time.
And that's a good point, Ruben. Who am I? What is my authentic expression? What do I like? What moves me? What? Yeah, that's yeah. I didn't know who I was, and I do now. And it started with the 3 words I picked off that sheet of paper, the essence words. I am a gentle, loving, empowering whole man. I've grown. Well, I got that term in 1992, and now it's 22, and oh shoot, that's 20, 30 years. And somewhere in that, I liked who I am, which means I had an idea of who I am. I'm not the man of the house. I'm not the provider. I'm not the only value I bring is how much money I can make or how well I fix everybody's stuff. No, I can be with you and not have to fix you. And it's like, and just be me. I like me. I like my proclivities and my oddities and the things I do. It's like, and what I'm finding is those are the things that are endearing to the people that love me. Like my kids, oh, Dad, there you go again, you're doing this thing. Oh, yes, I am. How about that? And it's like, it's a whole new world, whole new life. One of the promises of the program is you will come to a life you never knew possible. Well, I have come to a life I never knew possible.
Well, on that note, we're running up against the end of our time together. And before we bring this to a close, Ruben, any last thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
Well, there's a lot there. I can talk about this for hours.
Well, you'll just have to come back then.
I will more than happy to come back. I think it's what I'm taking away from today is the patterns of behavior that we find ourselves in as adults is a result of whatever we were exposed to. We don't need to pinpoint what specifically it was, but it has shaped who we are, how we think, what we define as good or bad, right or wrong. For someone new to this work, if you are confused, that is completely okay. That is absolutely normal, a normal feeling to have it when you're in the infancy of this work. I would ask you if you have any inclination or any intrigue to come back, because there's something there. That's what I want to say.
Thanks, and I'll build on that by letting everybody watching this know that there are at least 4 meetings a week that these 3 gentlemen here are involved in, that you can come and actually participate in this work. There's meetings, these are all Pacific time, Monday and Thursday night at 6:30, Tuesday at 4:30, and Saturday morning at 8:30. And so at the end of the podcast, there'll be a listing of John's and my email addresses. If you want to let us know, we'd be happy to send you they're all on Zoom. I'm happy to send you the Zoom URL so you can come and the meetings are utterly voluntary. You can come and say nothing, or you can come and bare your soul. It's all open and free. So please follow up on Ruben's suggestion and feel free to come check us out. And with that, John, I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, I want to emphasize if you're curious but feel some anxiety about getting on a Zoom meeting, you can black out your screen, you can put yourself on mute, you observe. Just come and watch us and watch the other people who are learning this material and asking their own questions. Because when one person in the group asks a question, it's pertinent to a lot of the people that are on there. We have a lot more similarities together than we have differences. And that's the feeling I had when I went to my first ACA meeting. I felt at home. It's like I was understood. I didn't understand it. I was confused. I was anxious. I was like, oh my God. And I stayed and I came back. So yeah.
Well, as always, thank you, John Donovan. Thank you, Ruben Smith, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Look forward to having you back again, regardless of where you're domiciled. And
thank you.
And everybody have a great life. Talk to you soon.
Yes.